A historic decision on Florida's property taxes is looming in the state capitol. Today, state lawmakers started discussing the governor's proposal to eliminate homestead property taxes. And we have live team coverage for you tonight. Our Riley Phillips is breaking down how local governments are responding to the potential of losing millions of dollars from that tax. But first, our Andy Payton is joining us live tonight in Tallahassee. And Andy, I know you have some new reporting tonight on the pushback, particularly related to funding for schools.
Yeah, Anthony, that's right. It seems schools seems to be the sticking point right now, and it also seems to cross party lines as well, with both Republicans and Democrats filing amendments that would look to protect schools here. We've just learned a short time ago that the committee has adopted those.
Members, please take your seats. The clerk will read the proclamation.
Tonight, Florida lawmakers weighing a historic decision. With House.
How does increasing the exemption for property taxes on homesteads help rent affordability for those that can't afford a homestead?
And Senate committees.
SJR 2F is the governor's plan to provide property tax relief to owners of real property in the great state of Florida.
Still discussing legislation at this hour that could make Florida the first state in the country to eliminate homestead property taxes.
This entire package was very sloppily and quickly drafted.
The proposal, coming directly from Governor Ron DeSantis, needs a 3/5 majority from each chamber to be placed on November's ballot, and would roll out in phases, starting by raising the homestead exemption to $150,000 in 2027, $250,000 in 2028, and ultimately $500,000 down the road, which would eliminate property taxes for 76% of Floridians. But critics on both sides of the aisle warn the tax cuts could come at a steep cost for local governments that depend on property tax revenue to fund emergency services and schools.
He is on his way out the door, and he wants to bankrupt local communities in the process.
A lot of us are very concerned for a number of reasons as to what the projections are with public education and funding.
Hillsborough and Duval counties, for example, expected to miss out on $373 million and $294 million in tax revenue, respectively. Tampa Mayor Jane Castor.
To lose it would be devastating, and it's just going to be made up someplace else because people aren't going to stop needing police and fire.
Yeah, now this proposal is still being heard in committee meetings as we speak, but if it is approved by both the Senate and House committees tonight, we could likely see a vote on this as soon as tomorrow. Reporting live here at the state capitol in Tallahassee, Andy Payton, First Coast News, on your side.
We appreciate that, Andy. Thanks. Voters would ultimately get the final say in November, with the proposal needing 60% approval to become law. Now, while the special session gets underway, city and county leaders on the First Coast are already sharing their concerns with the governor's property tax proposal. Investigative reporter Riley Phillips joins us live now in the studio with more on the potential impacts locally. And Riley, county governments could lose potentially millions of dollars of revenue.
Yes, Jacksonville Council auditors estimate the city could lose hundreds of millions of dollars if this plan is approved by the state legislature this week and then by voters in November. And leaders in Clay County are now informing residents about the potential impacts to public safety and public works.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hoping to significantly reduce property taxes with a ballot referendum in November. His proposal focuses on raising the state's homestead exemption from $50,000 right now to $250,000 by 2028. So what does this mean? Duval County property appraiser Joyce Morgan says property taxes are calculated by using a home's taxable value multiplied by the millage rate set by local governments. Residents can lower their taxable values by taking advantage of exemptions.
If you own a home here in Duval County and it's your permanent residence, that's where you reside, then you have the option and the right to get a $25,000 homestead exemption. And then you also have the right to perhaps get a total of $50,000.
Under the current parameters, a home with an assessed value of $350,000 that qualifies for the homestead exemption pays roughly $5,300 in property taxes. But under the governor's proposal, those property taxes would be reduced to around $1,700. The Florida Association of Counties has already come out with estimated impacts of this reduction in tax revenue. Nassau County would lose roughly $28 million. Clay would see a $43 million reduction. St. Johns County could lose $60 $60 million, and Duval County would see the largest reduction in revenue with a loss of nearly $223 million next fiscal year. Incoming Jacksonville City Council President Nick Howland says his colleagues will now be looking at next year's budget very closely.
We've got to make sure that we're focused on spending on the core, and then anything else that we can cut, we can cut. It doesn't mean that we're spending less money on what matters. It probably means we're focusing the money on spending where it does matter.
And since the announcement of the special session, Governor DeSantis has launched a website where people can get their property tax estimate under the proposed $250,000 homestead exemption. It's called Save Our Homes Florida. Lawmakers have until Wednesday to approve a plan.